I have always been fascinated with creepy stories. The kind that gives you goosebumps and makes you question every little noise around you. And, as a writer, I'm always on the lookout for new and interesting story ideas. So, when I stumbled upon this old abandoned hospital, I knew there would be a story waiting to be told. The hospital sat at the edge of the town, hidden amongst the tall trees and overgrown bushes. Its once white walls were now covered in layers of dirt and grime. The windows were broken and the doors hanging off their hinges. The hospital had an eerie presence, as if it was trying to tell me something. I approached the entrance cautiously, my heart racing with excitement and fear. The air felt thick and heavy, as if the building itself was holding its breath. I pushed open the creaky doors and stepped into the dimly lit lobby. The only source of light came from the small windows scattered around the room and the flickering lights above. As I ventured further into the hospital, I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. I could hear the faint sound of footsteps echoing through the corridors, but every time I turned around, there was no one there. The hospital was filled with old medical equipment, broken furniture, and peeling wallpaper. It was like stepping back in time, and I couldn't help but wonder about the people who once roamed the halls. As the sun began to set, I decided to find a place to spend the night. The thought of spending the night in a creepy hospital excited me, and I couldn't wait to experience the eerie atmosphere in the dark. I found a room with a relatively intact bed and decided to make it my base for the night. As I settled in, I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on the end, and I could hear faint whispers in the air. I brushed it off as my imagination, trying to scare myself even further. But then, I heard a door slam shut, followed by footsteps running away. I quickly grabbed my flashlight and cautiously made my way towards the source of the noise. I found myself in a long hallway, lined with doors on each side. The doors were all slightly ajar, and I could see faint glimpses of empty rooms inside. I followed the sound of the footsteps, and it led me to the end of the hallway, where a single door stood open. As I approached, I could hear faint cries coming from the inside of the room. With shaky hands, I pushed open the door, and it was met with a shocking sight. The room was filled with old hospital beds, all occupied by pale, ghostly figures. They were all dressed in old-fashioned hospital gowns, their eyes void of any life but filled with terror.
"What are you doing here?"
one of them asked, his voice shaky and filled with fear. I just came here to explore, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady.
"You must leave. This place is cursed. We are trapped here, and anyone who stays here past sundown will never leave,"
another voice chimed in. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. If it wasn't for the fear etched on their faces, I would have thought they were just a figment of my imagination. But their words struck with me. They were trapped in this hospital, and I was risking the same fate. I quickly made my way back to my room and packed my things. I didn't want to take my chances. As I was about to leave, I noticed a glint of light coming from under one of the beds. I crouched down and saw a small silver key lying on the ground. Without thinking, I grabbed it and made my way to the door. But as soon as I touched the doorknob, a sharp pain shot through my hand. The key seemed to burn my skin, and I dropped it with a cry. The door had shut on its own, leaving me trapped inside with the ghostly figures. My heart racing, I looked around for any way to escape, but the windows were too high, and the door wouldn't budge. I was trapped, just like the others. As the night went on, the ghostly figures became more restless, their cries and whispers growing louder. I could see them moving around the room, watching me with pleading eyes. I soon realized they were trying to warn me, to show me their fate, in hopes that I would not stay trapped with them forever. And as the clock struck midnight, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The ghostly figures began to move towards me, their hands reaching out as if they were trying to grab me. I could feel their cold breath on my skin, and I knew I had to act fast. Desperately, I reached out for the key and I picked it up, ignoring the burning sensation on my skin. I inserted the key into the lock and turned it, and with a loud creak, the door swung open. I didn't waste my time and ran out of the room, ignoring the cries and screams behind me. I didn't stop until I was out of the hospital and back in my car. I drove away as fast as I could, not looking back at the abandoned building. It was only when I was miles away that I realized I still had the key in my hand. I decided to return the key next day, wanted to put an end to the cursed hospital and the ghostly figures. When I arrived, the hospital was nowhere to be found. In its place was an empty field, as if the hospital had vanished into the thin air. It has been years since the incident, but the memory of the creepy hospital still haunts me. I have never been able to forget the ghostly figures and their warning. I always wonder if anyone else had stumbled upon the hospital and experienced the same fate as me. But one thing for sure, I will never go looking for a creepy story again. Some things are better left untouched and forgotten.